Last week, the Queen City of Cincinnati was the focal point in the NFL's tightest divisional race. For the hometown Bengals, there was only one way to win a division title. They would have to defeat their arch rivals, the Cleveland Browns. It should come as no surprise to anyone that here at season's end, the Browns are again factors in the title chase. Somehow they seem to do it every year. This season in particular is an odd one for Cleveland, for they are winning with defense. For the Browns, offense traditionally carried the load. An offensive line beset by injury and age has been the main problem for Nick Skorich. The running attack is no longer consistent and can be counted on only for an occasional big play. The passing has been weak, and Mike Phipps spends more time dodging tacklers than he does searching for receivers. The biggest bright spot has been exciting Greg Pruitt, Cleveland's number 2 draft choice. A more painful fact is that the team's 2 number 1 picks have barely contributed. Sure starter Pete Adams, a guard, was injured in preseason and hasn't played at all. And Steve Holden, a potential superstar, has yet to catch his first pass in the NFL. Cincinnati had a chance for Holden, but passed him up for Isaac Curtis. Curtis has been sensational and has given the Bengals the deep threat they have lacked throughout their short history. A big surprise has been Boobie Clark, not drafted until the 12th round. Teamed with Essex Johnson, the Bengals may emulate Miami in having 2 1,000-yarders on the same team. For Paul Brown, the man who founded and named the Browns, this game is the most vital in a long and extremely successful 39-year career. So for these arch-rival Ohio teams, today is the day. This is the NFL Game of the Week. The Bengals versus the Browns. The Browns have won 6 of the 7 games played between these two teams, including one earlier this season. But all of the games have been very close. In what was to be their longest yardage gain of the entire first half, Greg Pruitt took the opening kickoff, cut inside the blocking wedge, went outside, was one tackler away from going the distance. The Browns could have used a long score because right from the start, their chronic problems on offense were apparent. Mike Phipps has not done as well in his second season as a starter as he did in his first. However, the problems lie elsewhere, for Phipps has great ability. On his first series, usually sure-handed Milt Morin, the fine tight end, betrayed Phipps on one pass play. The Browns' ineffective line betrayed him on another. Phipps would be sacked 5 times today. Last week against the Chiefs, he went down 7 times. And so it's gone all year long. Luckily, Phipps has a strong body to go with his strong arm. When the Bengals got the ball, they began a march that would set the tone for the first half. Quarterback Ken Anderson consistently threw under the Browns zone for short, successful gains to Charlie Joyner and Isaac Curtis. Joyner has been hurt most of the year, and having both wide receivers together would be a big factor in this game for Cincinnati, as they picked up gains of 7, 9, 9, and 9 yards on 4 consecutive short throws. Then, for variety's sake, Essex Johnson squeezed through a small opening for short yardage and a respite for the passing game. But from the 9, Anderson hit on his 4th 9-yarder of the drive, a pass Isaac Curtis took all alone for a touchdown. Cincinnati had drawn first blood. A repeat shows that Anderson never looked anywhere but in the direction of Curtis, who had gotten behind Clarence Scott. Cincinnati 7, Cleveland nothing. But now, for the first time, the Browns got something going as Phipps popped a pass to Morin over the middle. At the start of quarter number 2, Leroy Kelly, at the end of his career, went down from his own moves, but still picked up 10 yards. Then, as he has done so many times this year, Phipps wanted to pass, but was forced into his escape artist act. Despite the fine run, Cleveland came up short and settled for Don Cockroft's 40-yard field goal that brought the Browns closer, 7-3. The 7-3 score didn't last long. 2 plays later, Isaac Curtis simply outran Walt Sumner, and the Bengals had their second touchdown. Curtis, who is probably the fastest man in pro football, had gone 70 yards to stun the Browns and thrill the fans. Cincinnati now led 14-3. For the remainder of the half, Cincinnati's tough defense just took off on the Browns' attack. Led by Bill Berge, who always plays best against Cleveland, the defense stopped the run and constantly forced Phipps to abandon his passing plans with a fierce all-out rush. The young man from Purdue was equal to the challenge, however, and made some long gains because of the Bengals' exuberance. He paid for it too, however. After Phipps had run for first down, he gave to Pruitt, who for the second time missed by one man, breaking the long one. The week before on the same play, Pruitt had gone 65 yards against the Chiefs. A factor in the game for Cleveland today was the absence of injured Frank Pitts. He is their main long ball threat and always seems to make incredible catches against the Bengals. Phipps tried their other wide receiver, Fair Hooker, but the Bengals covered well to end Cleveland's last threat of the half. As time ran down in the half, Anderson went back to the short slants that had served him so well earlier, and the team moved downfield. Then from the 20, Anderson worked on rookie safety Van Green, and Isaac Curtis came open for his third touchdown catch of the half. On each one, he had beaten a different defender. Cincinnati's choice of Curtis over Holden in the draft couldn't have looked better, as the Bengals dominated the Browns 21-3 as the half ended. At the start of the second half, Anderson, who had found 169 yards of success in the air in the first half, continued to find cracks and crevices in the Cleveland zone. Working repeatedly to the left side of the Cleveland defense, Anderson found Bob Trumpy for 14 yards and got 18 more with Charlie Joyner, who got behind linebacker Bob Babich, number 60, and slid safely into home. With Anderson already over 200 yards passing for the day, and the Browns highly pass-conscious by now, Anderson used the draw play, and Essex Johnson got 16 yards, almost breaking it for the touchdown. Tom Darden's shoestring tackle saved the touchdown, and a repeat of the play reveals that Darden was indeed the last man with a shot at Johnson. It would prove to be a big save, as Anderson handed off to Booby Clark 3 straight times, and Clark rang up a 1st and goal from the 3. But the Browns made Darden's saving tackle stand up when they refused to yield the touchdown. After a run gained down to the 1, Anderson tried to pass, but John Garlington blitzed him into a hurried incompletion. A 3rd down run failed, and so Horst Muhlman was called in. His field goal boosted the lead to 24-3, but the Browns were desperately searching for inspiration and drew it from the defense's gallant goal line stand and got back into the game. On the kickoff, speedster Billy LaFear found a hole in the wedge and burned 60 yards to the Cincinnati 33-yard line. The Browns very nearly misused LaFear's return when Phipps, trying to sneak Leroy Kelly into the secondary, nearly threw an interception at Lamar Parrish. Though spared the interception, Phipps was faced with a 4th and 5, and trailing by 21, the Browns had no choice but to go for it. Phipps could find no one open, but did locate a gaping hole in the middle of the Bengal rush and got the 1st down. The drive was alive, and Phipps tried Ken Brown on the same play that had misfired earlier, but Lamar Parrish was right there for an instant replay incompletion. And so for the 2nd time in the drive, Phipps faced a critical 4th down. This time he caught number 34, Neil Craig, in a safety blitz and hit Gloucester Richardson, who beat the Bengals' blitz-weakened secondary. The Bengal lead was down to 14 points, and the Browns, as they have done so many times this season, were mounting a comeback drive to get back in the game. A 15-yard personal foul on the touchdown allowed Cleveland to kick off from the Cincinnati 45, and with only 45 yards to run, instead of the customary 60, the Browns were able to trap Parrish at the 4-yard line. The Browns kept the Bengals bottled up deep in their own territory, then forced a break when Clark fumbled, and rookie Van Green scooped up the ball and ran 15 yards for the score. In less than 2 minutes, the Browns had scored 2 touchdowns, and what was once a very safe 21-point lead had suddenly shrunk to a very shaky 1-touchdown advantage with a period and a half still to play. Cincinnati's next possession, however, would prove to be the game winner. Where others may have folded before the Browns' sudden strike comeback, the Bengals, now a big-game toughened team, did not. Passing sparingly and relying on his running game, of which he himself was a part, Anderson drove the Bengals to the Cleveland 37-yard line. But here the Browns very nearly created another big break when Clark fumbled. Clark recovered his own fumble, but on a repeat we can see that he was lucky to do it. The football, usually known for its weird bounces, for some reason stopped dead, and Clark found the football staring him in the face. It was a big break, but nothing in comparison to Anderson's next pass, which saw Clifford Brooks bang into Charlie Joyner to bring up 1st and goal from the 1-yard line. Joyner got the call he was looking for, and though the Browns argued vehemently, there was little doubt that Brooks had interfered. But it was perhaps the biggest play in the game, and the Browns found the penalty a bitter flag to swallow. On the next play, Booby banged over right guard, and the Bengals again led by 14. Being down by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter is not new to the Browns. Just last week, they had scored twice in the last 6 minutes to save a tie with the Chiefs, and LaFleur's second long return signaled that they might be ready to do it again. But this time it was not to be, as on the first play of the fourth quarter, Phipps's pass to a double-covered fair hooker was intercepted by Bernard Jackson. Jackson was downed on the Cincinnati 6-yard line, but he couldn't resist showcasing his moves. The Bengals were again in the shadow of their own end zone. And though they didn't fumble this time, they were held without a first down and punted the ball to Cleveland in good field position. The Browns were not dead yet. Starting from their own 42, Phipps moved the Browns 32 yards closer with a strike to Richardson, who, like the man he replaced, Frank Pitts, was coming up big against the Bengals. On the next play, Phipps sent Brown on a swing and hit him for 15 yards to the Cincinnati 23. But on the play, the Browns suffered a 15-yard tripping penalty as the Bengals got another big break. Phipps got that back with a screen to Pruitt, but on this one, the Browns were called for clipping. Phipps now faced a 2nd and 28. The Bengals knew he would have to throw, and they towed out and stormed in. Phipps fumbled, and when Royce Berry recovered, the Browns' gut comeback was all but over. They seemed to sense it, and the emotion-drenched game left some of the players a bit testy. The Bengals took over on their own 45, and using the ground game to grind the clock, Cincinnati moved toward the clinching field goal. Horst Newman hit it, watched it fly true, and gave the victory salute, and went to kick off, confident of the Bengal defense's ability to hold off the Browns. Cleveland would have 2 more possessions. The first ended with Phipps sacked by Mike Reed and Royce Berry for a 13-yard loss. Cleveland's playoff hopes were just 7 minutes away from disappearing almost completely. The Browns' last possession ended when Phipps, trying to throw Holden his first catch of the year, overthrew, and Ken Riley intercepted. Bernard Jackson enjoyed Riley's interception immensely, as with just 2 minutes left, the Browns, the Bengal nemesis on so many occasions, had finally been conquered. The Bengal defense, which had played so magnificently, now settled along the sideline to watch an equally super offense run off the last seconds of the game. When it was over, Bengal fans brought out the orange handkerchiefs, emulating the white handkerchief salute given to a certain team down south. The Bengals may soon face that team in a round one playoff game, for their win today almost assures them the AFC Central Division title. All they need do now is beat Houston in their last game to earn the right to face the defending NFL champion Miami Dolphins. Said victorious 65-year-old head coach Paul Brown after the game, "The old coach is a happy man today."